Good evening again, everybody. We now come to the highlight of this evening's activities. On screen, we have three faces that you may just about recognise. Top left, we have Martin O'Neill, a former manager of Wycombe Wanderers and many other clubs successfully. Below him, we have Gareth Ainsworth, obviously our current manager, who has also had a little bit of success with us at Wycombe Wanderers. And finally, the face that goes with the voice, from I Follow commentary, Mr. Bill Turnbull. And basically the guys are just going to have a chat for half an hour or so about football in general, about Wycombe Wanderers, really anything that comes into their minds. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. I'm now going to dip out and leave them to it. So over to you, Bill. Many thanks.
Trevor, thank you. Thanks very much. Gentlemen, good evening. First, I mean, really, it's a huge honour to be talking to you both together and on this particular occasion. So I'm just terribly excited as any Wycombe fan would be. First thing, I've got to get the names right, the nomenclature, if you like. I mean, Gareth, you know, if I saw you at the ground, you'd be gaffer, obviously. But Martin, I don't know if you know this, but you are referred to actually by Wycombe fans as Saint Martin. So I'm wondering, how does actually one address a saint who's still alive? Is it your venerableness, your worshipfulness, your saintfulness? I'm not sure. What do you think?
I think there's enough of that, Turnbull. I think you should just get on with things. All right.
Well, second question. So it's going to be Martin and Gareth.
If I'm going to continue calling you by your surname, you're in big trouble. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard you're a very strong man manager, so I'll bear that in mind. So I'll just call you Martin and Gareth. But before we get started, is that a chandelier behind you, Martin?
It is a chandelier, and there's a mirror there. Let me tell you this, Bill. The chandelier is worth about £4, and the mirror is worth about £6, I think. And it's the only things that I have. So I thought if I put it high enough up so that you think, actually, whoa, why, that's all right. And there's nothing even in the mantelpiece either. Not a thing in the mantelpiece. Yeah. So if you want me to change it, no problem. I see in the background there that you've got loads of books. I hope that you've got a couple on OJ Simpson, which I hope that you have got a couple on music that Gareth obviously is a main player in proceedings like that. I'm just an amateur viewer, but love my music. And
actually, there we go. Speaking of books, one of the most recent books I read was a book called Close Quarters. I don't know if you're familiar with it, by Neil Harmon, about
absolutely
last season and Wycombe's incredible journey, which we'll come back to later. So just to get the visuals right, Gareth, is that Jerry Lewis behind you on the piano there?
Yeah, that's the killer himself. That's Jerry Lee Lewis. So that's a little bit of inspiration for my boy, who I don't play the piano or the keyboards, but my boy does, Kane, and my daughter Giselle. They both play. So I thought there'd be a little bit of inspiration above the piano for them. And they're both big fans, as am I, of Jerry Lee Lewis. Yeah.
Okay, great. So you are known, the two of you, as the greatest managers in Wycombe Wanderers history. I mean, you know that, don't you? I suppose the only argument we could have, which I'm not going to have because I'm a bit worried about what Martin might do, is to decide who is the number one. Because obviously, Gareth, you took Wycombe into the Championship where they're doing a fantastic job. On the other hand, I think it's 2 promotions for Ainsworth, 3 promotions possibly at least for O'Neill, and several trips to Wembley. Is it 3 victorious trips to Wembley, or is it more than that?
Well, I think that my time, obviously, I loved it, and I think I can draw a lot of parallels with Gareth's time there. If you listen to what is happening down there within the dressing room and things like this here. So I kind of set the way for him. He got promotion into the Championship. That is a massive dream. That was a dream for all of us, and he achieved that. So I think he should take the accolades for that there, and that's where we should end the conversation.
All right. Well, that's very gracious of you and incredibly generous.
No way. I've got a butt in there, Bill. You know. I've got a huge amount of respect for the man to the right or below me. I don't know where he is on my screen, but he's like I say, the whole Wycombe journey is it includes us both, you know, and I wouldn't have been able to do what we've done if Martin hadn't set it up years ago with the team just coming into the Football League as well. So challenges, both of us have had huge challenges, you know, and I think that's I'd love to, if I can be on a tie with someone like Martin O'Neill, I'll take a draw every day with Martin O'Neill, believe me. So I'm really happy just to be doing what we're doing at the moment, and it's great. As Martin says, the important place is the dressing room. When you see those players all together and the team spirits we both had, that's what it's all about, and we're loving getting the results with that.
Well, I'd just like to take a couple of minutes to compare notes between you on managing a. Well, you can't call it. We don't call it a small side anymore. We're in the Championship. That's just nonsense. But to manage a side that's facing challenges. I mean, Martin, did you ever have a situation like Gareth did last season, when on opening day of pre-season there were only 9 players on the books, and was it 7 members of staff, something like that?
Yeah,
that absolutely incredible to hear that. I didn't know that there for quite some time afterwards, and but to have your opening day of pre-season and you're looking around for a group of players, you think at least you'll have a full-size squad to choose from, whether you like the players or don't. But not to have that at your disposal is just, it's mind-boggling of what was achieved in the months after that. It really is mind-boggling. And great credit to the young man there. I still think of him as a very, very young man. I do. Thank you. I think he's just out of his playing time. Maybe it's the long hair. Maybe it's all of those particular things. But maybe everybody's getting younger these days. But
I mean, pre-season, Bill. Yeah, Martin. Sorry to interrupt. It was 9 of us, and 7 staff. It really was. You know, it's not. You know, you read that and you think, oh, that's been exaggerated. It really was, because the club was in such a state. What I will give credit to the trust for was backing me so much to stay in League One. The 5-year plan we achieved, and if I'm being honest, I think they probably didn't tell me they spent more than they had just to realise this dream of League One football and stay in League One. And the plan was so good, we probably stretched ourselves just that little bit too far. And the way football was going, you know, it's hard. It's hard. You've got to try and keep up with these finances. So when we had to get rid of all that budget, it left me and Dobbo with the mammoth task of signing, you know, players for hundreds of pounds a week. It's like low hundreds of pounds a week. So what we said was, we'll get to pre-season, we'll get the boys in, we'll see exactly what we need, and then we'll start getting loan players in, because teams don't loan players until sort of the latter end of pre-season. We were going to bank on loans, and little did we know that Rob Courig was going to come in and put us exactly back to what we had in the year before, and that gave me a massive opportunity then to sign.
Yeah, I hesitate to refer to Rob as a. I hesitate to refer to Rob as a fairy godmother, but he had that sort of effect. Martin, what was in your long career as a manager? I mean, I was looking. It was 25 years actually since you left Wycombe, so the game's changed a lot in that time. But what was the greatest challenge you felt as a manager?
At Wycombe, or
anywhere?
Yeah. Well, first of all, just as an addendum to what Gareth was talking about, the problems he saw or were there in front of him at the time, mine was completely different, in the sense that when we got promotion into the Football League, all the players wanted to become professional players, which was great, no matter what age they were, whether they were 21 or, in Glenn Creaser's case, about 30 years of age. So, and these players were earning, with the money that they were getting for Wycombe as part-time players and their particular jobs, Bill, they were getting far more money than we could give them as salaries for their full-time job. But they all wanted to do it. And so I've got the utmost regard and respect for those players who did it. I think there was Mark West, who was excellent centre forward for us at the time, didn't want to do it. I think that perhaps he was earning enough money elsewhere, or whatever it was. He just, for whatever reasons, he stayed as a part-time player, but everyone else became full-time players. And we had the time of our lives, because we had a little training ground up at Hulmer Green. We had an old man there. Well, he wasn't that old at that time, perhaps he's now, and his wife. They used to look after us. It didn't matter what size the pitch we had, whether it was pouring down the rain, but with rain the night before, he would cordon off a little area for us, and we had have the sandwiches afterwards and the buns and things like this here. All of the things that if someone in the Premier League had spotted players eating that now, they would have immediately turned off. But it was great stuff, and it couldn't have been more enjoyable. I must admit, it really couldn't have been more enjoyable. We opened up the first day of the season up at Carlisle United. We were run ragged for the first 30 minutes. We thought, if this is what the Football League professional players is like, I'll tell you what, this is going to be really difficult. But somehow we gathered ourselves together. I think we eked out a draw eventually there. And remarkably and ironically, we should play them in the playoffs for at the end of the year. So we played them in the semi-final and beat them over the 2 legs to go to Wembley. So that was terrific. And beating the young man there himself, we beat Preston in the final, which contained David Moyes and young Ainsworth. And so for us, that was really, really terrific, absolutely. And so we carried those things on. So we had the time. I get back to saying the comparisons I think that I can draw from my time there with the players that I had, and the enormous regard I held them in. And I think that Gareth has the same report, if not more, perhaps, with his players, because that achievement last year was simply sensational.
And we're looking for a similar achievement this season, because you talked about getting into the Football League. Well, going from League One to the Championship, I've been quite sort of shocked by the jump in standard of football. I mean, it really is something. But the other thing that I've been very surprised and gratified to see is the huge improvement in technical quality from the Wycombe side in coming to terms with it. So, first couple of games of the season, you're acclimatizing. But since then, their play, I mean, I don't know if you've managed to see them play at all, Martin, but their play has been confident and fluent, and they're doing things on the ball. Everything's doing things on the ball, which you wouldn't normally see in Leagues 1 or 2. And it's a nice, fluid, team spirit of football on the pitch. So, Gareth, I'm wondering, what did you do during close season to get them playing like that? Because it is different to what it was last year.
Yeah, totally. And I had a very similar Carlisle moment, shall we say, in the first few games. We were shell shocked. I think the Rotherham game, which I wanted Martin to be at, so we invited Martin to the Rotherham game, and he kindly came and watched. And that was a very tight game. Set plays were always going to dominate that, and it was two teams that have been in League One, so really that wasn't our introduction to the Championship until the next game away at Blackburn, and obviously the 5-0 defeat. It was a whirlwind, it really was. And then Swansea came, quickly followed, by Norwich's and some real fantastic teams that we thought, wow, this is a step up. This is a huge step up to what we've been. So really, it wasn't close season that we did our work. It was a 2-week period between the first 5 games. We had this international break, and we really got together, worked really hard on how we wanted to play and what we did. And if I'm honest, the big man has made a big difference. Akin Fenwer coming back into the team. I think he is this talisman that all these teams seem to have. They all have this Ayew or Djukovic, or there's always one Pukki, or there's always this one striker that you can name in a team, and that's their talisman. We needed ours, and he was injured for the first few games. He came back, settled the boys, but again, we are now playing a slightly different brand. But it's the quality of players I've been able to bring in, Bill, as well. With the increase in the budget, Daryl Horgan, Gareth McCleary, some of the younger boys, Anish Mamete, who's going to be a fantastic player. So it comes with being able to get better players, and unfortunately that's the way it is. But the jump, as you say, I think the jump between Leagues 2 and Leagues 1 wasn't huge. Martin has done the conference to the League 2, and he said it was quite a jump. League 1 to the Championship, honestly, it's a phenomenal jump. It really is, and I think that you see so many teams I think there's only 5 teams who haven't been in the Premier League in the Championship at the moment. So when you talk like that, this is a Super League, and we're proud to be there. But we've got to keep working hard and keep doing what we think is right, and keep my beliefs and my values as well is really important. But I've got a great set of boys that will run through brick walls for me, and I can't ask any more than that.
Martin, the other thing about the Championship is the money. The money is just overwhelming. I see it as a Wycombe fan. The clubs think nothing of paying millions of pounds for a player, which is just beyond the wherewithal. Well, I don't know if it's beyond the wherewithal, but certainly beyond the dreams of Wycombe fans, and that's a huge challenge to face.
Well, there are obviously a number of reasons for that, because it's so close to the Premier League. There's a lot of gambling going on, in that sense that teams, football clubs like the one I used to play for, Nottingham Forest, I know that from first-hand experience and things that you see, or so, and Derby County, all those big teams that you feel like Leeds United, all those sides that feel that that should be back in the big league, and perhaps maybe for historical reasons they could and should have been. But Leeds made it eventually, having failed in the playoffs against the previous year against Derby County. And but so some of those teams are, I think Gareth will agree, have retained the money, when they slide down. Now, of course, that there are a number of issues about that. There, you don't automatically go straight back up again, but those sides have had Premiership money. Gareth has mentioned there's only 5 teams that have not tasted the Premiership in recent years. I didn't realize that myself, but it just adds fuel to the argument. But in terms of play, I absolutely knew, without even saying to Gareth, that the difference between Division 1 and the Championship is really day and night, and the teams are. There's not a game in the Championship that I would look at last year, this year here, and turn around and say that this team's absolutely certain to win the game. I can't see that. I think the teams are evenly matched. There is this surge of a number of sides that want to gamble and try and get into the big league, and if it doesn't happen, there might be residual problems and things like this here. But overall, yeah, in terms of the standard, it's no surprise if Wycombe make it this year. And I say this even if Gareth wasn't there, I think that would be a fantastic achievement. That would equal anything that he's done at all, to me, if they could make it this year and just and stay in this league. That's how difficult it is for a side coming up with what Wycombe had.
Yeah. So Gareth, how do you approach playing sides, big money teams?
Very similar to how we did it in League 1, because teams were bigger money teams than us. We are destroyers of other teams. That's my philosophy. If someone said, how do you play, Gareth? I've never been able to afford teams that dominate and impose their game on other teams. So we do work hard on the opposition. We work hard on how to stop some of their strengths before we work on our own strengths. And so it's worked. It's something that one day I would love to be able to say, right, this is how we play, and we are going to impose our game so much on them. We're not going to have to worry about what they do. But it's an untruth. We worry about the other teams, and I worry about. We've got Derby on Saturday. They've got a guy in midfield called Wayne Rooney, who's still a fantastic player. Everything goes through him. Again, we've got to find a way of maybe combating that, maybe combating a couple of other players, and then after we can negate that, then what can we do? And I think it's a strategy we've used throughout, and it's worked. And even the recent games we've had, we always pay huge respect to the opposition and what they do, and then try and impose what we do. But we never ever we never ever take games lightly. Sometimes too much respect. I remember Swansea in the early part of the season. We stood off them and thinking, wow, this is Swansea. The gaffers told us they do this and that, and they did it. We didn't stop it, and that was a little bit too much respect. And there's a fine line between still getting their faces, but be aware of this, be aware of that. And Martin will know what I'm talking about. You know, it's a real fine line of getting your players to get it spot on. They never get it 100% perfect because we'd be winning every single game. But if I can get them 50, 60% perfect, the other 40 is in the balance, and your players on the day can win that, and it's about them on the pitch then. But no, we work really hard, Bill, on
one other thing about the money, and it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts. I look at certainly the amount of debt that a lot of clubs are taking on, and the amount of money that they're taking in is just like hardly any at the moment because of lockdown and fans being away. And a lot of clubs are going to be in a lot of financial trouble in the next season or two, aren't they?
A huge trouble. The Championship, Bill, it's a renowned league for clubs going into major debt. Martin alluded earlier, some teams gamble. I remember Aston Villa had a huge gamble a few years ago trying to get to the Premier League, and it almost killed them, you know, and they got there in the end, and it's fantastic for them now. But teams will go for that promised land like you would not believe. It's somewhat the Golden Fleece will do anything to get there. And you can't do that. You can't. And what I'll be so proud of is I know that this season, with all the resources, with all the comings and goings of lockdown, we carry on the same trajectory we're on. Wycombe will make maybe a small profit this year for the first time in many years. And to add that to survival in the Championship, I think would be celebrated beyond any belief, because I'd say 80% of these clubs will make a loss in the Championship just trying to get to that Premier League, and we won't be, but we'll be trying to survive.
Not only that, but Martin, I mean, do you see clubs going out of business?
Unfortunately, I do. I mean, throughout my time in football, there's always been a crisis, last minute one averted. Clubs always been saved by the last moment, or whatever the case may be. But we've never experienced something like this pandemic before, and for no crowds to come into the games where teams, Gareth will be well aware, teams in the Division 1 and Division 2 would be depending on gate receipts at least to tide them over, not necessarily put them into profit by any stretch of the imagination, but at least tide them over. And with no one coming in, I think that this is, I don't know, the vaccine looks as if it might be around the corner. It'd be great if that was the case. Some crowds are being allowed back in again, but for the lower league teams, don't know enough now about, in terms of those sides in the Championship, the one that we were talking about with Gareth about gambling. I still think that is still massive for them, because if they're not getting enough TV revenue, then of course each and every club will struggle at some way or another. But those teams, I fear for sides further down the leagues, and that would be a real shame, because obviously that's what the English league is built on.
Well, then I fear there will be a reckoning. I hope it won't be too severe, but I fear that certainly will be one. Let's get back to football for a second. Martin, I've always wanted to ask you this, because you will remember as manager of Aston Villa that you were drawn against Wycombe Wanderers in the League Cup in 2003, I think it was, when John Gorman was managing. Mm-hmm. And the first 45 minutes, the end of the first half, Wycombe were winning 3-1, incredibly. Do you remember that game?
I wasn't there.
You weren't there?
No.
Were you not manager at the time?
No, I wasn't manager of Aston Villa at the time. No.
Oh, well, forget it. That whole story is wasted. But it was
absolutely and utterly wasted.
Good research, Bill.
Bill, if I'd been the manager of Aston Villa and we were drawn against Wycombe, I would have forfeited the game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it was an amazing game. John Gorman was managing.
It may well have been.
Yeah, 3-1 up. And we were singing, it's just like watching Brazil. I've never seen the Woodlands stand so happy.
No
and then
problem.
The final score was Wycombe 3, Villa 8.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. No. I'm sorry. Yeah. No. I knew that there was an unhappy ending.
Yeah.
But,
all right.
No problem.
So,
all right.
Gareth, your favourite.
Ask me another, please.
Well, I will. I'll come back. He's sitting there laughing at. He's laughing at me too much. I've got to get him sharp and start talking.
Ask him what he was involved in.
Brilliant.
The FA Cup semi-final 2001. Do you remember it? No. So, your favourite game as a well, apart from the playoff final, obviously, this summer, which I'd imagine would stand out from anything else, wouldn't it, Gareth?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. You know, you trip to Wembley, and after the first trip to Wembley was obviously losing on penalties against Southend last seconds of extra time. You know, yeah, this one was super special. And do you know what? In a way, I'm gutted for the fans; they weren't there. But in a way, just having the players all celebrate together, no one going over to their families, that made it special for us. It's a little bit selfish of me, but it will never be done again. Wembley will probably be full for the playoff finals. To do it in the empty final, we may be the quiz question that comes up, you know. But it was brilliant to see them all just have each other that day, and that was it. And it was a real special moment. So yeah, the way we beat you know, our local rivals as well, Oxford, just up the M40 there, it was a brilliant moment, and yeah, one I won't forget. But aside from that, we've had some fantastic cup ties. Tottenham Hotspur, obviously away, was one that I will stay in the memory a long time.
Yeah, I thought I was going to die watching that game. Actually,
yeah.
It was especially at half time. I thought we're winning, and then to be 3-2 up at the tragic end result, but there you go. But it was one of the most exciting games I've ever seen. Martin, for you, I would imagine a World Cup adventure. Or not?
Yes. In terms of international matches, yeah. I mean, I was lucky enough to play in the European Cup final for Nottingham Forest away back in 1980. So to win a European Cup that was only for the likes of George Best and Puskas and Di Stefano and Eusebio and players like that and Johan Cruyff, this was obviously a great moment. But if you're referring to 1982 as the captain of the World Cup time, we had just again splendid time in Valencia in Spain, beating the host nation to qualify for the quarterfinals of the World Cup. And Jerry Armstrong. Do you remember Jerry Armstrong? Would you, Bill?
No.
You don't?
No, I don't.
That's a real shame, because Jerry Armstrong thinks that everybody should know him. He was the goal scorer that evening when we won the game. And anyway, listen, that's really besides the point. We had a really great time. If that's what you're talking about,
Let's talk about management styles, because it was really illuminating in Neil Harmon's book about Gareth's management styles, which, to sort of sum it up very quickly, is it's all about talking. It's about being close, keeping a tight-knit team. Managers' doors always open. And you know, it's footballers are allowed to cry as well as other people. So it's all about being human, I think, and being warm. Has that ever been your management style, Martin?
You say that disapprovingly, as if that.
No, not at all. No. It's just a different approach. Different approach.
Yeah, I don't know whether you can talk about style and just and sum it up in a word or two. I think that absolutely are the things that Gareth seems to have at that football club. I feel from a distance, and can only say this from a distance because I don't know specifically, but I would feel as if that was the same sort of camaraderie that we had at Wycombe, which was very, very important indeed. But we had, that didn't mean that every single moment was a glorious moment. You know, we had disappointments along the way. You have to leave some players out of teams. You have to do all of those things, players particularly who feel as if they should be in the side. So it's called man management the whole way through. And I do believe now more so than ever, it is very much that. okay, the game has changed. There's lots of talks about tactics and styles of play, and how a manager can evolve in many ways, and how he can evolve his team. But overall, strictly, it is very, very much about man management, and I don't think that that's going to change. I heard Guardiola speaking. He's saying, "I've got the players at my disposal. My job is to manage them," and I think that's a rather short appraisal of his excellence as a manager. But essentially, that's what it's all about. And this idea that everyone in your dressing room is really happy about proceedings, well, when I got left out of the team at Nottingham Forest, I wasn't too happy. So I can't turn around and say that everybody was happy in the side, but it's how you manage those situations the whole way through. And eventually, the more games you win, and the players come round, even those players who are a wee bit dubious about you will eventually come round to your way of thinking and to your style, because they'll be dwarfed by those people who are enthused by the way that you handle the football club.
Yeah.
That's
okay. I mean, I don't know if that's Gareth. You tell me if I'm wrong.
Gareth probably totally and utterly disagrees with what I'm saying, but it's not
No.
that's called styles of management.
Yeah. I mean, in a sense, also the team, you delegate in the sense that you have the generals.
Yeah,
and I'm intrigued by the idea of the generals. So let's sort of Blooms, Bayo, Dominic Gate, JJ. Yeah. How did that system develop?
It just developed after which we took the boys to the Somme, obviously in the first season, the Wembley season of Southend, and it developed from there. It developed that we would get this core group of. We looked at it. Came from the military. It came from that trip, and they said the generals used to manage all the troops, and the generals would make these decisions. And we, on the way home, we thought, why don't we make some generals? Why don't we make some generals in this dressing room? And we've kept it with us. And as Martin says, if you've got people in your dressing room and the majority of people for you, and the generals help me with that hugely, they'll help me with that. Then the minority, they soon lose or they either come round or they just go. And that's how it is, you know. And the majority come round because it's such a great place to be. They want to be part of it. So the generals are really, really important for me. And I can sometimes say my job is quite easy. I've got these bunch of players that they'll police themselves in the dressing room sometimes. I don't have to be in there. I don't have to be fining them for being late. I don't have to be fining them for being on the training ground in the wrong gear or doing this. They're policing themselves. And as far as training, the generals will pick the boys up. I don't often have to do it, but the generals will come on, we're training now. That's not good enough. Pick yourself. It's awesome. If you get people like that, but as the managers, we have to put them people in place. And I think that's the skill, is putting the generals, the right people in the right place there to manage the rest. That's how I do it. And then a lot of talking to my generals, but a lot of talking to the whole squad, especially the ones who are injured and especially the ones who are left out. I do a lot of talking with these boys, I've been in clubs where if you're injured, the manager won't even speak to you, walks past you, doesn't even make eye contact with you. And I always thought that was tough for that injured player. Or if you left out the team, you want to know why. And okay, come in my office and I'll be brutally honest with you. And it might hurt you, but at least you'll know why. That's my way of doing it. And I've seemed to be done okay with that so far. You know, I'm pleased with that. And then the tactics and everything come on top of that, and fantastic coaches I've got with me.
How do you, is that your style, Martin, also?
There's a lot of similarities. And the points that Gareth makes about having generals in that aspect, I would totally agree. I had them. I had numerous at Wycombe, and every single football club I had. The whole process behind that is actually picking those lads, and that's part of it. But at Wycombe we had a number of players at the football club who would be encouraging each other, and who would be all the things that Gareth has mentioned. If there's a bit of sloppiness in training, You know, they wouldn't be short. There wouldn't be slow in telling players to pick themselves up and get a move on. All of those things, and I felt that was really important. It's not to say that you're not saying something to them. You know, absolutely. I probably talked more at Wycombe Wanderers than I maybe did at Celtic in that aspect. But I was very young at that time, or youngish, and management was essentially pretty new to me. I enjoyed every minute of it. Not to say I didn't enjoy Celtic; I loved it as well too. But as I learned things, but I felt as if at Wycombe at that time, maybe with the players at my disposal, maybe I felt I had to speak more. It may not even have been the case, but anyway, that was the point. But overall, it was just a wonderful time I had there. You know. I think that I was reading a little bit about your own history, which is very varied and excellent. But tell me this: were you in Washington at the time, or when the OJ Simpson trial was taking place, or that whole particular affair, or where were you?
I was not for the original crimes and the arrest, but for the trial. I was in Washington, and then when the trial ended and the verdict took place for the criminal trial,
Yes.
I was out in LA, and it was one of those, a bit bizarre experience actually, because I was commentating literally live on Radio 5 at the time, but without the benefit of being in court. So I just had the view that everybody else had, which was a single camera in the courtroom, and then I had to work out what to say from that. And I would just listen to footsteps. So Judge Ito would ask the clerk of the court to bring in the jury. And I said, jury now coming in. And you had them all shuffling in. And then another instruction from the judge, oh, have you got the verdict? And then I had to say, well, now he's got the verdict in his hands and he's unfurling it and reading it. Now he's passed it to the clerk of the court, who's taken it to the other lawyers so they can see. And now we're about to hear. And then you had that extraordinary moment where he was found not guilty, and it was the defense team couldn't believe it actually.
Yeah.
And in 1 second, also it cut America in half on racial lines, which was rather tragic at the time. Just completely cleaved it in two, and it's taken a long time to make that back. If it has at all, I'm not sure. And then actually I was in LA, Santa Monica for the second trial, the civil trial, where he walked past us in the street, OJ, every day on his way into the courthouse. And that had a very different outcome because the court found against him. So yeah.
Did you think in the original criminal trial that were you surprised at the verdict?
Yes and no. So I thought on the basis of the evidence, he was guilty.
Yeah.
But actually I was surprised at the time. Looking back on it, no, because the defense very cleverly got the trial moved downtown. Yeah, and downtown you had a different racial mix for the jury, sort of more naturally, I would say, more sympathetic to OJ at the time, and so that was a master stroke on their part, and it was all about tactics, really. It was all about tactics.
And the detective was at Furman. He didn't help proceedings at all. You know.
No, he didn't.
He
didn't. Yeah.
No, I'm just reading that there now. Just about your own career, and
that's why I haven't got your personal history entirely correct, because obviously I was during the glory days. I was actually in Washington.
No, you haven't offended me in the slightest, but I wasn't going to come back on for the second part of the program. You know?
Do you remember? What do you remember about the day? Not to bring back too bitter memories, but because you played Wycombe a couple of times. There was the Wembley playoff, Gareth, but also actually in one of the other big nights in Wycombe's history was the FA Cup replay. You scored in that game. But I was looking back a couple of months ago for some reason in an idle moment. I was looking back at the highlights from it. You had short hair.
Yeah, one of my short hair moments. Some of the worst mistakes of my life have been haircuts. So we had a couple of short haircuts, and that was one of them. But that night, yeah, I mean, Wycombe Wanderers twice, really. Obviously, Martin's Wycombe at Wembley. That really, I was 21 years old. But this was me down at Premier League side at Wimbledon, and Wycombe coming to town. Yeah, they took us all the way to penalties, and obviously the keeper was the hero. You know, he saved and then scored one. It was a cruel moment for us. That was my first ever FA Cup goal, by the way. So that was a moment for me. But yeah, just remember just that lower league team knocking you out. It hurts so much, you know. When and I think it was the fifth round, was it? So that was well on the way to the quarters and the semis, you know. So that, you know, 3 games away from where Wycombe ended up. But yeah, obviously, it's took one for the team there, I'll say. But I wasn't on for the penalties. I would have scored one.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
No, I was taken off at 2-1 up, and you scored in the last seconds again. McCarthy, wasn't it? Yeah. And it was. Yeah, I was on to take the penalty, but I remember Mark Williams blasting it over the bar, and that was the end of that. So, but no, fantastic year for Wycombe again, and this small club has had some real special moments.
Oh no, you said small club again. Pete Coig's going to be fining you. You're not allowed to say little Wycombe small club anymore.
Find me all you want. No, we are this. What was a small club? We're getting a little slightly bigger now, but
yeah.
we're still not the Goliaths that are around. Believe me.
And Bill, how did you become a supporter of the football club?
Well, I used to live. We live in Suffolk now, but I used to live up the road, the other side of Beaconsfield, between Beaconsfield and Gerrard's Cross, in a little village called Jordan's. And when we came back from America, which was '98, didn't really pay much attention to sport. And then at the time, Wycombe did little football camps in the holidays in schools. So my kids went along to that. And then there was, and so they gained an interest. And then there was the Cup run in 2001. And that got us hooked. And so I saw the first game actually against Wimbledon when at Adams Park, when Wimbledon were 2-0 up. And
when Steve Brown was offside.
Well, that was only in phase 1, if you remember. Phase 1, but not phase 2.
Sorry. Phase 1 counted back then, believe me.
20 years on. And, yeah, exactly.
Not that I'm bitter or anything for Brown. You know, he's a good friend.
Exactly. But, very, very contentious. So that was the season got us hooked. And when we became season ticket holders the next year, sort of glory hangers, and have been hanging on ever since. And there have been moments of glory along the way. There's also been, you know, pain and tears and suffering. And at the beginning of every season, you ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this again? Because there's only, you know, variable number of outcomes, but you do it because you just love it. And sometimes dreams can come true. And last season, my goodness, that dream came true. It was, I get sort of almost teary just thinking about it, because it was beyond the dream. I remember at Christmas talking to Rob Coig when we were, you know, ahead by 7 points. And I said, you need to understand, this for Wycombe fans is somewhere they've never been before. You've already done the job in many respects. And he said, well, we're not satisfied. We're going to go off and see, you know, that we get the job finished off. And they did. And that's why everybody does it, I guess. And people said to me when we moved up here, oh, you become an Ipswich supporter. Why would I want to do that? That was when, you know, they were in the division above. But why would I want to do that when I support the greatest little club in the world?
There you go. Brilliant. Really nice. Nice story.
Thank you. Your club.
Good days then.
Yeah. So Gaffer's a Blackburn man, which must have really hurt twice, actually, losing very closely there earlier this season. But Martin, remind me, Notts Forest, was it? No, you didn't. When Sunderland, you're a Sunderland and another team.
Bill, Yeah, it sounds crazy to say, but there's no such team as Notts Forest. It's Nottingham Forest, and that is an amazing thing for anybody, because Trevor Brooking used to always call Notts Forest, or Nottingham Forest, Notts Forest. And I used to say to him, Trevor, there's no such team. There's no such team. It's Nottingham Forest, but there's a team called Notts County. But strangely enough, and it is a big, big thing in Nottingham where they want to be called Nottingham.
I met somebody now who's an even bigger pedant than I am, which is amazing.
Yes, there's no doubt. And but growing up, obviously from my own background, you were from Northern Ireland. You were either Celtic or Rangers. But in terms of picking an English team, Sunderland was my favourite team. They were, generally speaking, and they were in the old second division, Gareth's Championship now, as it were. But I was a big supporter, because they had a centre half called Charlie Hurley who played for them. He was an Irishman, and of course that was big. And he was also, a few years ago, I think he was not the best of health in the world, but he was a big player for them in the 60s, and he was voted Player of the Century at Sunderland just about 7 or 8 years ago. So that's fantastic, really fantastic. But I was a big Sunderland supporter in those days, as a growing up, obviously, as a kid.
And sometimes there's a great irony looking at those teams that we've left behind in League One, not wishing to gloat, but Sunderland is a great club.
Sunderland is a great club. Yeah, it is.
Normal.
Yeah.
And for them to be where they are, their third season now in League One is just extraordinary. I mean, you just think, well, how does actually? I mean, I know I'm not asking you to talk out of school too much. Well, I am actually, but never mind, Gareth. How does that happen to a club?
It can happen to a club, and I think it's probably linked a little bit to what we were talking about earlier with the finances and who's running the club and how much they got to spend, and again changing manager after manager after manager. It's not healthy for any football club. You look at the clubs that have done that historically, they just haven't done well. So, I mean, your local team, Ipswich, Charlton, Sunderland, Portsmouth, there's some huge clubs below us. So again, it's a real special thing to be where we are and trying to survive. But it's almost surreal sometimes. But when we do think about where we are and when we look at that League One now, me and Dob will often say, thank God we're not in League One this year, because that is such a powerful league this year. Hull came down, they're right up there. There's some big teams, Wigan, Charlton, all ex-Premier League teams. So this is a year not to be in League One, and
but it's also very mobile, because when I was looking at the fixtures coming up this season, actually I recognised a whole lot of sides that I had seen Wycombe play at Adams Park, so like Reading and Cardiff and Brentford and Luton. Lots of sides who've actually been down there in League One, and crikey, Luton went out of the league entirely not that long ago and have come back. So I find that sort of comforting in the sense that, well, they went down and they come up, but they're not unbeatable in that respect.
No, and there's a chance, without a doubt. We have a huge chance to get things right and to stay in this championship. But again, I'd like to reiterate what Martin said. This will probably be better than getting to the championship. Actually, staying in the championship is going to be some mammoth effort. I think we can do it. I firmly believe we can do it. But what a powerful league! What a powerful league, and I'm enjoying every single minute.
Martin, we're running out of time, so I need to ask you one more thing, because people will want to know, first of all, how you are, because and what your plans are, what you're doing at the moment, and that sort of thing. What's next for you?
Well, Bill, thank you very much for asking. I'm fine in terms of health, and I was going to ask you the same thing, and obviously well aware of your own health problems, and hopefully that you're battling through that. That would be great. But Listen. I'm fine. I was hoping that perhaps that if Wycombe could survive in this division, that they might need an international scout, particularly down round about southern Italy, and of course I permanently down.
Now that you mention it,
down in southern Italy, and I was waiting around for Ainsworth to give me the call. So, and I wouldn't be that expensive, believe it or not. You know, I could advise him on a couple of decent players, I'm sure. Hopefully, ones that are out of his range. That means that I could stay down there and view somebody else, and of course have the holiday of a lifetime. So, but
yeah. I think 2 words: dream and on. Will probably
absolutely. But listen, well, yeah, we'll see. COVID obviously has put a block on a lot of things. What aims that you might be, the ambitions, all sorts of things. I'll see what develops anyway in the new year.
Okay. Well, listen, we're out of time, and I see a dog has run onto the pitch in the Ainsworth house, so that means we've got to go. But thank you very much for your time. Fascinating to speak to you. And I've just got a quick, Gareth, it's going to happen this season, because I know you've got the spirit and you've got the players, and they look great, and their heads are going to be in the right place. But just in case, I need you to get the message here. Is that the right way around? Or is it the wrong way?
That is the right way around. We're seeing it. We're seeing it loud and clear, Bill. That's
Keep the faith.
Thank you.
Keep the faith.
Because
we all. That's what I wore. Also, that and the 1.74 T-shirt was what I wore in the build-up to the playoffs. And it said, if you believe it can happen, if you believe it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And that's the way it's going to be. And we're going to make it thanks to you and the boys. So on behalf of Wycombe fans, let me just say, I was hugely privileged to be at Wembley that night. Hugely privileged. And it was the best night in sport for me. One of my greatest life memories. And like you, I felt it was a shame that the others couldn't be there. But I know they would want me to say how very, very grateful they are to you and to the entire squad, you and Dobber and the entire playing squad and the staff, for what they did last season, because you gave them the memories of a lifetime. You really did that night. And during those games, it was absolutely fantastic. And they are all, I'm sure, as you will find when fans are allowed back in the stadium, be right behind you and the team as well. So on behalf of them, thank you very much.
Right back at you, fans. Thank you so much for all your support. You've been amazing from the days right early on. We had some tough times to now delivering championship. Can't wait to see you back in Adams Park. Thank you.
Martin, thank you. Namaste.
No, thank you, namaste. I echo what you've just said to Gareth. Absolutely. Terrific achievement. Really, really brilliant. And this year's exciting. To stay up in this league would be sensational. Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Martin.
No, absolutely, Gareth. I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
I know.
Terrific achievement, knowing how difficult that league is. And Bill, nice to meet you. Genuinely nice to meet you. Absolutely. Forget about what I said about Notts Forest. That doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter about not having any homework done at all either. You know, so don't consider any of those things. You're still
time's up. Time's up. Got to go. So just got to go. Time's up.
Bye. Bye.